It's 5:39 p.m., March 28th, 2021. I'm going to read Liber LXXIII, The Urn, The Diary of a Magus. Preface. This is the sequel to the Temple of Solomon the King, and is the Diary of a Magus. The book contains a detailed account of all the experiences passed through by the Master Therion in his attainment of this grade of initiation, the highest possible to any manifested man. Introduction. In the vision and the voice, the attainment of the grade of Master of the Temple was symbolized by the adept pouring every drop of his blood, that is, his whole individual life, into the cup of the Scarlet Woman, who represents universal impersonal life. There remains, therefore, to pursue the imagery of the adept, nothing but a little pile of dust. In a subsequent vision, the grade of Magus is foreshadowed, and the figure is that this dust is burnt into a white ash, which ash is preserved in an urn. It is difficult to convey the appropriateness of this symbolism, but the general idea is that the earthly or receptive part of the Master is destroyed. That which remains has passed through fire and is therefore in a sense of the nature of fire. The urn is engraved with the word or symbol expressive of the nature of the being whose ash is therein. The Magus is thus, of course, not a person in any ordinary sense. He represents a certain nature or idea. To put it otherwise, we may say, the Magus is a word. He is the logos of the eon which he brings to pass. This description is by Crowley from the official instructions of AA. Book 4, Parts 1 through 4, Appendix 1, 4, page 467. Adapted from Crowley's Confessions, Abridged edition. The above is obscure. I perceived and deplore the fact. The idea may be more intelligible, examined in the light of history. Gautama Buddha was a Magus. His word was anatta. That is, the whole of his system, which revolutionized the thought of Asia, may be considered as based upon and consecrated in that one word, which is his denial of the existence of the Atman or soul of Hindu philosophy. Later, Muhammad also partially overturned an age by uttering his word, Allah. But to us, practically, the most important case of the kind is that connected with such gods as Dionysus, Osiris, Balder, Marsyas, Adonis, Jesus, and other deifications of the unknown Magus concerned. The old pagan worship of the mother idea was superseded by the word Iao, or its equivalent, which asserted the formula of the dying god, and made the male, dying to himself in the act of love, the engineer of the continued life of the race. This revolution cut at the root of all previous custom. Matriarchy vanished, self-sacrifice became the cardinal virtue, and so through infinite ramifications. This idea of accomplishing the great work by a voluntary death was bound up with the belief that the sun died and was reborn with the hours and the seasons. Astronomy having exploded this fiction, mankind was ready to gain a further comprehension of its own parallel case. My own word, thelema, supplies a new and scientifically sound basis for ethics. Self-sacrifice is a romantic folly. Death does not end life. It is a temporary phase of life as night and winter are of terrestrial activity. Many other conceptions are implied in this word, thelema. In particular, each individual is conceived as the center of his own universe. He is the logos of the eon which he brings to pass. Cf. Rabelais, the final secret is in the bottle inscribed "Trink." Many other conceptions are implied in this word, thelema. In particular, each individual is conceived as the center of his own universe, his essential nature determining his relations with similar beings, and his proper course of action. It is obvious that these ideas are revolutionary, yet to oppose them is to blaspheme science. Already, in 1,000 ways, the principles involved have replaced those of the dying god. Little remains but to accept thelema consciously as a statement of law, so that any given problem may be solved by applying it to each case. The man Crowley had been chosen to enunciate this law, that is, to exercise the essential functions of a magus. But he had yet to understand it, a task which involved the crossing of the abyss already described, and further to identify his will with the law, so that his personality might act as the focus of its energy. Before he could be that pure will whose name is that word, he had to be purged by fire of all competing volitions, and this was done by those who had chosen him during this part of his life, which I am about to record. He had indeed got rid of his sense of the personal self, yet his force was discharging itself dispersedly through all sorts of channels appropriate to the various elements in his nature. It was necessary to constrain every particle of his energy to move in one sole direction. The physical analogy of a gas whose electrons are polarized and one not so organized is not so bad. It must now be explained how he was able to understand what was happening to him in this initiation, his life from 1914 to 1919. The grade of magus is traditionally connected with the idea of the number 2, male creative energy, wisdom, and the expression of a single idea in terms of duality. It transmits the idea of the divine unity to its feminine counterpart, the understanding, somewhat as a man transmits the essence of his racial character to his wife, so that he perceives his inmost nature, itself unintelligible to him directly, by observing the flowering of that essence in his son. The Hebrew title of the idea embodying these characteristics is Chakma or Chakma, whose numerical value is 73. This fact appears arbitrary and irrelevant, but it forms part of the symbolic language in which the praeter-human intelligences who control the initiate communicate with him. Thus, my adventures in America seemed a series of stupidities for a long time. Nothing I did produced the expected results. I found myself suddenly switched from one episode to another so irrationally that I began to feel that I had somehow got into a world where causality did not obtain. The mystery only became clear when analysis disclosed that the events which threw me about in this manner occurred at almost exact intervals of 73 days, or of some multiple or submultiple thereof. I understood from this that 73 terrestrial days made up a single day of initiation. The chronology of the Chakma days is roughly as follows. Italicized dates are confirmed in Crowley's writings. 1. November 3, 1914, January 14, 1915. Confessions, page 826. In Liber 73, July 4, 1916, Crowley notes he was alone. 2. January 15th through March 28, 1915, ditto. 3. March 29th through June 9th, 1915, ditto. Crowley refers back to 3 Chakma days, ending on June 9th, in Confessions in page 798. 4. June 10th through August 21st, 1915. In Liber 73, July 4th, 1916, Crowley notes he was with the cat. 5. August 22nd through November 2nd, 1915, ditto. 6. November 13th, 1915 through January 14th, 1916, ditto. See Confessions, page 805, where Crowley relates that he broke up with the cat. 7. January 15th through March 27th, 1916. In Liber 73, July 4th, 1916, Crowley notes that he was alone, but see Confessions, page 805. 8. March 28th through June 8th, 1916. In Liber 73, Crowley notes that he was with the monkey officer. 9. June 9th through August 20th, 1916. Confessions, page 806. In Liber 73, he calculates on July 4th, 1916, that he has had 8 days so far. 10. August 21st through November 1st, 1916. 11. November 2nd, 1916 through January 13th, 1917. 12. January 14th through March 27th, 1917. 13, March 28th through June 9th, 1917, see Confessions, page 826. 14, June 9th through August 21st, 1917, The Dog, see Confessions, page 826. 15, August 22nd through November 2nd, 1917. 16, November 3rd, 1917 through January 14th, 1918, The Camel. 17, January 15th through March 28th, 1918. 18, March 29th through June 9th, 1918, Olun in Here Somewhere. 19, June 10th through August 21st, 1918. 20, August 22nd, 1918 through November 2nd, 1918. 21, November 3rd, 1918 through January 14th, 1919. Meets the Ape of Thoth in early January. See Confessions, page 848, where he states that with her appearance his journey through the desert had reached its last stage. As soon as I had grasped this singular fact, I was able to interpret each such period by considering how its events influenced my spiritual development. In this I succeeded so well that towards the end I became able to predict the sort of thing that would happen to me beforehand, which helped me to meet circumstances intelligently and make the fullest and most appropriate use of them. One further point with regard to this initiation must be mentioned, though it sounds so fantastic even to myself that I can scarcely smother a smile. In the ancient ceremonies of the Egyptians, the candidate was confronted or guided on his journey by priests wearing the masks of various animals, the traditional character of each serving to indicate the function of its wearer. Quaint as it sounds, I found myself discovering an almost stupefying physical resemblance to diverse symbolical animals in those individuals whose influence on me during their appointed period was paramount. These officers, portraits of many of whom appear as figures XXXXXX facing XREF, so I guess in the original document, were given theriomorphic names as follows. Crowley notes that their function changed with Chakma Day 14, June 9, 1917, Confessions, Abridged Edition, page 826, when the function of the officers was no longer to administer ordeals. I had passed the tests. They were sent as guides to lead me on a journey through the desert to the appointed house of the juggler, in which a magus symbolically lives. In approximate order of appearance, the cat, Jean Robert Foster, née Olivier, the Scarlet Woman, Hilarion, see Confessions, Abridged Edition, page 805, look up. The snake, the monkey, Ratan Devi, Alice Ethel Kumaraswamy, née Richardson, the wife of Ananda K. Kumaraswamy, see Confessions, Abridged Edition, pages 773 through 6 and 805 through 6. The owl, Confessions, Abridged Edition, pages 805 through 6. The dog, Anna Catherine Miller, appeared Chakma Day 14. See Confessions, page 826. See also 781. The camel, Roddy Minor, or Mrs. Zane. The Scarlet Woman, Achitha. See Confessions, page 832. Olun. The ape, Leah Hersig. The Scarlet Woman, Elastrael. See Confessions, page 841, where Crowley describes her as the last of the officers in my initiation. From these and other indications, I have been able to construct an intellectual image of the initiation, and if these preliminary remarks be thoroughly understood, it should be easy to follow the course of my progress to the grade of Magus. Part 1. Part numbers and stars are used by the present editor to demarcate the different portions of the diary, which covers, with some gaps, the period from late 1914 to early 1918. Notes from the diary of the candidate Nemo 8-3 during his initiation to the grade of Magus. This title is given on a loose manuscript title page to the first diary included in Liber 73. This also gave Section F, November 4th, 1914 through March 10th, 1915, Chakma Day 7. It appears that Section 3 in this series was Liber 415. Sections D through E are apparently not extant. The date range corresponds roughly with Part 1 of Liber 73 as published here. The reference to as the Chakma Day series itself began on November 3, 1914, unless another series is intended which would have begun around August 17, 1913. The colloquy of VVVVV, that is to be a Magus 9-2 of AA, with the god Qua, or the Greek Thoth. New Year's Eve, 1914 through 1915, about midnight. This record should touch briefly on the causes of this work. About December 14th, I came to the conclusion that B was Lord of New York, and began various invocations of him as best I could, notably by the OTO method. I shall refer here and after to the record de Arte Regia. This diary was kept in parallel with the present diary. Indications of op, opus, and operation, followed by a number, are usually cross-references to Crowley's OTO diary. I did also certain psalms, certain divinations, and have been doing thrice daily the old invocation, Majesty of Godhead Day, as in Liber 64, or Israfel. Also, on going to bed, I have done dharana on an imagined figure of Hermes now and again, or the caduceus. I have been exercised with regard to the question of the possibility of my attaining the grade of Magus in this life, after all, and my very blindness and impotence, which are at present considerable, give me hope. I seem to have no creative power or inspiration. I don't work at all. I do geomancy on all sorts of things. It's funny, I don't feel bad, but there's something radically wrong in all I do. Is this the threshold? January 2nd, 1915. I've just done a 9th degree to become a great orator, invoked Tahuti, and delivered a sermon to the inhabitants of the 10,000 worlds on the text, O my beautiful God, I swim in thy heart like a trout in the mountain torrent. January 3rd, 10 a.m., Invocation of Mercury. 2 p.m., Invocation of Mercury, tried sermon on 220, chapter 2, verse 59. A hopeless failure broke down in 5 minutes. 9:30 p.m., Invocation of Mercury. January 4th, 9:30 a.m., Invocation of Mercury. 2:30 p.m., Invocation of Mercury. 11:35 p.m., Invocation of Mercury. January 5th, 10:30 a.m., Invocation of Mercury. 4:30 p.m., Invocation of Mercury. 10:15, Invocation of Mercury. Followed by dharana on caduceus, the winged lobe being in the cerebellum and the staff in the spine. Not very good, and yet near dhyana. I got a dhyana, by the way, a spark of silver, left by Hermes, on whose image I was concentrating ere I slept, of extreme brilliance. This seems like the true dhyana of Bennett. This seems like the true dhyana of Baphomet. This on January 3rd, rather late at night. I do not seem to have noted that I brought in the new vulgar year by the Thoth invocation, followed by Enochian calls, and then the Bornless one. What about the breaking up of sleep, General John St. John, Act? Perhaps I need some such big work to initiate a true current of force in this filthy country. January 6th, 10 a.m. Invocation 6:20 p.m. approximately, Invocation 840 p.m. approximately, Invocation 11:35 p.m. dharana on caduceus till 12:18 a.m. Practically one long fight against thinking of the pole axings I have had today, but I won in the end. January 7th, 11 a.m. Invocation of 3:45 p.m. Invocation 12:20 a.m. January 8th. Invocation of Baphomet today brought me luck. SK bought books to $100 and actually paid for them. 4572, 170 West 72nd. January 8th, 10:45 a.m. Invocation. 2:10 p.m. Invocation. 9 p.m. approximately Invocation of January 9th, 10:45 a.m. Invocation of 4 p.m. and 9:15 Invocation of January 10th, 10:45 a.m. invocation, 1:30 p.m. invocation, 11:30 p.m. invocation, January 11th, 10:45 a.m. invocation, 1:30 p.m. invocation, 6 p.m. invocation, January 12th, 10:45 a.m. invocation, 1:30 p.m. and 12:30 a.m. invocation, January 13th a.m. invocation, 1:30 p.m. invocation, 12:14 a.m. January 14th invocation, January 14th, 10 a.m. 2 invocation of 11:20 p.m. invocation of performed operation recorded in Rex de Art Regia 23. January 15th, 11 a.m. invocation, 4 p.m. invocation of 8:20 p.m. invocation, 9:12 operation 26. 9:12 operation 24. 11:20 through 12:10 meditation with mantra Ikzod Heka to aid that operation 24. This too to go to sleep. January 16th, 10:35 invocation of 6, invocation of 12:50 a.m. on the 17th invocation, and 11:50 a.m. and 3:10, 12:20 on the 18th invocation of a little fervent prayer. January 18th, 10:30 invocation of 1:20 p.m. invocation of 10:45, invocation of January 19th, 10:30 invocation of 5:10 p.m. invocation of 20. 9 p.m. invocation, January 20th, 9:20 a.m. invocation, approximately invocation, January 24th, 8:40 p.m. and 11:10 p.m. invocations, January 21st, 10:45 invocation after lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram, 2 invocation of 11:55 p.m. invocation, January 22nd, 10:40 invocation for LBR, 2:30 invocation of 9:20 invocation for LBR, January 23rd, 10:35 LBR invocation, 3:20 invocation, 8:30 invocation of January 24th, 10:50 LBR invocation, 2 and 3:20 invocation of January 25th, 10:40 a.m. LBR invocation of 5:55 p.m. 11:50 p.m. January 26th, 10:40 a.m. LBR, 3:15 p.m. 9:15 p.m. Operation 27, 10:13 p.m. Operation 28, 10:25 p.m. January 27th, 10:30 a.m. LBR, 3:40 p.m. 8:45 p.m. January 28th, 10:40 a.m. LBR, 3:27 p.m. Came home late and criminally forgot to invoke Mercury. January 29th, 10:50 a.m. LBR, 4:05 Operation 29, 5 p.m., 10 p.m. January 30th, 10:55 a.m. LBR, 3:47 Operation 30, 1:15 a.m. 31st, home late. January 31st, 11 o'clock LBR, 3:35 p.m. 9:20. February 1st, 10:50 a.m. LBR, 2:15 p.m. No B. Began morphia except night of January 31st with 1/6 of a gram. Many dreams that first night of annoying type, afterwards extraordinarily vivid and delightful. 2:25 p.m. 1 gram of opium. 9:45 half gram of opium. It is evident that I must go from B to K. 10:30 p.m. Invocation of B and IAO. Mantra for solitary 9-degree work with Jupiter. Pod secus ac templum spumanti semini vates, lustrat, dum gaudens accipit, amphora aquas, sparge precor, servis hominum rex atqui deorum, Jupiter omnipotens aurea dona tuis. Aurea dona tuis. A variant of the first hymn to Jupiter from the Holy Hymns to the Great Gods of Heaven. See page 291, infra. And just as when the priest purifies the boy with foaming seed, while the other rejoicing accepts the waters, sprinkle, I pray, Jupiter, King of gods and men, all-powerful, golden gifts upon thy servant. 11:40 half gram opium, February 2nd, 10:30 LBR, 3:30 invoke B, 1 gram opium, 8:55 p.m. 1 gram opium, 8:55 p.m. invocation of B and IAO, 11:15 1 gram opium, February 3rd, 10:40 LBR, 3:40, Invocation of Mercury. 10:05, Invocation of Mercury. 11:20, 1/2 gram opium. 11:20, Invocation of Mercury and IAO. February 4th, 10:35 a.m., LBR and Invocation of Mercury. 11:40, Invocation of Mercury. 3, Invocation of Mercury. 12, 1/2 gram morphine, Invocation of Mercury and IAO. February 5th, 10:30, LBR and Invocation. 2 p.m., Invocation. 11:40, Invocation of Mercury and IAO. February 6th, 10:55, LBR and Invocation. 3, Invocation. 8:20, Invocation and IAO, or B and IAO, Mercury. February 7th, 10:50, LBR, Invocation. 4:15, Invocation. 10:50, Invocation of B and IAO. 10:57, Operation 31. February 8th, 11:50, Invocation of Mercury. 4:15, Invocation of Mercury. 5:07, Operation 32. 11:20, Invocation of Mercury and IAO. February 9th, 11:10, Invocation of Mercury. 3:05, Invocation of Mercury. 12:15, February 11th or 10th, Invocation of Mercury and IAO. February 10th, 11:45, Invocation of Mercury. 5:55, Invocation of Mercury. 10:50, Invocation of Mercury and IAO. February 11th, 11:45, Invocation of Mercury. Afternoon, things interfered. Mea culpa, mea maxima culpa. My mistake, my greatest mistake. 5:31, Operation 33. 11:25, Invocation of Mercury and IAO. February 12th, 11:40, Invocation of Mercury. 1, Invocation of Mercury. 12:45, 13th, Invocation of Mercury and IAO and Body of Light only. February 13th, 10:40, Invocation of Mercury. 5:50, Invocation of Mercury. 8:54 p.m., Operation 34. 9:30, Invocation of Mercury and IAO. February 14th a.m., in bed after 34 and a late supper. 2:30 p.m., Invocation of Mercury. 11:15 p.m., Invocation of Mercury and IAO. February 15th, I had gone to sleep praying for a dream to teach me how to fix the volatile. I was in a room square, bare in New York. The eldest showed me the book of Galith. I took this to be in the Bible, and read some curious verses with words strange to me. They sang also, and the senior preached, illustrating his speech by a dying lion, a series of statues reminding one of the dying pig toy which I had noticed on the street a day or so before. In each case, the lion was to be turned over onto its back. The theme of the sermon was mostly that he, Christ or lion or elixir, or something, must be turned completely over, and must be made very dead indeed. The book was full of promises that he would come back, and he, on the whole, is not wanted back. In Dream 2, I was wandering from a hotel in a desert place into a sort of eastern city, or bazaar. A boy was clinging to me at first, later a girl. I, on the other hand, merely wanted a Turkish bath. The whole town was part of the bath, but I couldn't find the hot room, and in hunting about I got out again to the signpost where the roads parted just beyond the hotel. 10:50, Invocation of Mercury. I must have dreamt it, but I thought I saw the new moon last night, and she was only 12 hours old. 4:20, Invocation of Mercury. 10:20, about Invocation of Mercury and IAO. February 16th, 10:50 a.m., Invocation of Mercury. 2:50, Invocation of Mercury. 12:20 a.m., February 17th, Invocation of Mercury and IAO. February 17th, 10:50 a.m., Invocation of Mercury. 4:05, Invocation of Mercury. 11 o'clock, Invocation of Mercury and IAO. February 18th, 10:35, Invocation of Mercury. 4:15, Invocation of Mercury. 12:10, February 19th, Invocation of Mercury and IAO. February 19th, 10:30, Invocation of Mercury. 5:30, Invocation of Mercury. 10:30, Invocation of Mercury and IAO. February 20th, at docks all a.m., or all morning. 7:05, Invocation of Mercury. 10:40, Invocation of Mercury and IAO. February 21st, 6:35 a.m., Operation 35. 11:35, Invocation of Mercury. 3:25, Invocation of Mercury. 12:25, February 22nd, Invocation of Mercury and IAO. February 22nd, 10:15, Invocation of Mercury. 5:10, Invocation of Mercury. 11:35, Invocation of Mercury and IAO. February 23rd, Invocation of Mercury at 11 o'clock. 4:50, Invocation of Mercury, 11:50, Invocation of Mercury. February 24th, 11:25, Invocation of Mercury. 3:05, Invocation of Mercury. 12 o'clock, Invocation of Mercury and IAO. February 25th, 12:30, Invocation of Mercury. 2:35, Invocation of Mercury. 12:30, February 26th, Too Tired, Apologized. February 26th, 11:39, LBR, Invocation of Mercury. Invocation of Mercury, unknown exact hour, apologized at night. February 27th, 10:30, Invocation of Mercury. 4:20, Invocation of Mercury. 12:10, Invocation of Mercury, astral. February 28th, 12:40, Invocation of Mercury. 2:30, Invocation of Mercury. 11:45, Invocation of Mercury. March 1st, 10:20, Invocation of Mercury. 5:40, Invocation of Mercury. 12 o'clock, Invocation of Mercury. March 2nd, 11 o'clock, Invocation of Mercury. 2:30, Invocation of Mercury, apologized at night. March 3rd, 12 o'clock, Invocation of Mercury. 2:30, Invocation of Mercury. 8:50, Invocation of Mercury and Invocation E for AV with Brother Colin. March 4th, 11 o'clock, LBR and Invocation of Mercury. 12:55, Operation 36. 7:20, Invocation of Mercury. Late at night, apologized. March 5th, 10:25, Invocation of Mercury, out all PM. March 6th, 11:20, Invocation of Mercury. 4:05, Invocation of Mercury. 8 p.m., Kundry's Visions after Invocation of Mercury. March 7th, 10 o'clock, Invocation of Mercury. Very busy, probably did invoke. Mercury once in PM. March 8th, AM, apologized. 4:15, Invocation of Mercury. At night, more apologies. March 9th, 1:05, Invocation of Mercury. 4 o'clock, Invocation of Mercury, evening ill. March 10th, 12:15, Invocation of Mercury. This all broke down owing to my having to go away to Philadelphia. Kundry's Visions after Invocation of Mercury. Crowley's diary for mid-March 1915 through mid-June 1916 is lost, if written. Simons and Grant say Rex de Art Regia has a gap for June 1915 through February 1916. This entry survives as quotations in Crowley's Confessions, abridged edition, page 800, and in his commentary to Liber 418. July 1915. Result. This is one of the greatest experiences of my life. Curious that the 1906 success also came through a magical Thanksgiving under stress of passion. I went off to sleep almost at once. In the morning, I woke early, before 7, in an absolutely renewed physical condition. I had the clean, fresh feeling of a healthy boyhood, and was alert and active as a kitten. Post talem mortem. Mentally, I woke into pure love. This was symbolized as a cube of blue-white light like a diamond of the best quality. I say a cube, yet its most salient property was that it was without boundaries. Experience of similar trances is necessary for the understanding of this statement, which is a perfectly proper expression of a perfectly observed fact, despite its intellectual self-contradiction. I suppose because there was nothing else in the cosmos. This very lobe is intransitive. The love has no object. My gross mind vanished when, later on, memory pictures of Hilarion arose. They were rejected automatically. All the desire, quality, the clinging, the fear were no more. It was pure love without object or attachment. I cannot describe the quality of the emancipation given by this most wonderful experience. Om. Crowley's diary for mid-March 1915 through mid-June 1916 is lost, if written. Simons and Grant say Rex de Art Regia has a gap for June 1915 through February 1916. This single entry survives in a holograph notebook at the Harry Ransom Humanities Research Center, the same notebook that contains the manuscript of holy hymns. October 12, 1915, 1:05 a.m. You have awakened my virility, Hilarion, to the full. A wonderful and serious event.
Jean Robert Foster, the cat. I am just come out of a dream. I was supposed to be in the country somewhere proving an alibi, and had stolen up to town for an evening. There were Harry, Raines, somebody I've forgotten who lived with Hare, and one or two others. There was you also, but your name was Miss Lelang or Lalang, and you were a student artist. I think you had gone home early. Anyhow, I too went, not very late, after certain maneuvers. There was some girl there with whom I wanted to be alone, but I can't remember who, how, or why. In any case, I found myself on a grassy hill, which was the west side of the Butte Montmartre, and also a university, and I had to walk round to the south side to get to 56th Street, where you lived, for I wished to make a last effort to see you. But I only decided this because I went to sleep for a moment on the grass and waking found it was 9:30 a.m. I wondered why it was so light. The girls were going to market and students to the university and so on. I had on by this time my blue and gold magic robe and my Cambridge University academicals, which I put on over the robe to hide it. At your home the landlady swore you had gone, but I refused to believe it so silently and so forcefully that she suddenly changed her mind, took me upstairs and knocked. You flung the door open, you had a loose nightdress on, and our hair was down. Your first impulse was to shut the door, but you were afraid, I think, and I have little chance, for I came in with determination. On the bed sat Sidney Carlyle, Doris's worm husband, with some thin brown sack-like thing on. Under it I could see an enormous F in erection, at least 18 inches long. Behind the door, Neuberg, or Lepere, or a mixture of the two, was squatting on the floor. On the bed sat Sidney Carlyle, Doris's worm husband, probably Doris Gomez, with some thin brown sack-like thing on. Under it I could see an enormous F in erection, at least 18 inches long. Behind the door, Neuberg or Lepere, or a mixture of the two, was squatting on the floor. It was, of course, evident that you were the last word in horror. I said, "All right, I accept the situation, and I'll show you." I caught you in my arms, and we began to dance voluptuously, madly, our mouths locked. S.C. used his F as a violin with some curious object, I can't remember exactly what, as a bow, while Neuberg chanted a mantra. The dance got madder and faster. By and by I threw you down tempestuously on the bed, B, and thrust my head where it was happiest. Then, after a while, I came up and began to make love to you in the usual way. I woke, finding myself about to end and believing the dream to be true. I summoned all my strength. Part 3. June 28, 1916. Die Mercurii. Adams Cottage, Bristol, New Hampshire. Last night I dreamt I was divining in regards to my grade of 9-2 and pulled the deuce of diamonds. This was not the ordinary tarot card, but a regular deuce, only with the two diamonds linked by a stem. The meaning of this card was that I must gain the most complete indifference to pain, my own or another's. Else, I suppose, one is bound to a hedonistic outlook. P.S. March 12, 1917. One cannot act freely as a magus must if one has this inhibition. I also dreamt, but less vividly, that the four deuces were a complete synthesis of the powers of the grade. This may have been the result of rationalizing the true dream. June 28, 7:30 p.m. Took 200 drops chocolate base preparation. Anhelonium Lewinii. 10:30 p.m. A while ago I had cut down a great tree whose fork was marvelous like unto the thighs of a goddess. This I set up upon a stone, and putting another part of the trunk, with a similar but smaller fork, for a phallus, I did inflame this giant copulation by my magic art. And first the phallus became as the head of a great serpent, even the eye and ear marked aright, and he visibly taking pleasure in his kisses to that mighty vulva. Last he fell exhausted, and the head being burnt through, I did then erect the shaft against that mighty love. Then they glowed and flamed right gleefully together, even unto this hour. June 29th, Die Jovis, 6 a.m. At 5 I work and have now broken my fast, etc. The great copulation is still glowing red, the phallus almost eaten through below the glands, yet still erect and joyous. Color visions few, vague and not very brilliant, but I had a wonderful dream. I was married to a most seductive girl, but I had to come to her with my hands wet with murder. I still see the first, a Siamese boy whom I disemboweled. The whole night was full of the most sadic adventures. There was also somewhere, I can't hitch it on right, a skeleton with nasty buttocks, which he kissed with. By the laws of the dream, one could not avoid him. July 3rd, finished De Thaumaturgia, or Liber 633, concerning the working of wonders. See words cited. This 9-2 initiation is sui generis, utterly unlike all others. For one thing, it takes up one's whole life. One is puzzled because Chakma is Masloth right away from the planets. July 4th, Chakma being 73, one day of this initiation is 73 days. Thus, leaving England to meeting of cat and snake officers, i.e. the preliminary silence and solitude was 73 times 7 days approximately. I was with the cat officer 3 times 73 days, alone again 73 times 1 days, with the monkey officer 73 times 1 days, and 8 Chakma days in all so far. During this night I had a dream, part of some orgy with a marvelous black woman of some tribe I do not know, part of a future wife. Medium brown hair, rather small, compact, very soft, sweet, and absolutely radiating devotion and domesticity. In her arms was a baby, the lord of the dream, which was an invoked dream, told me that this was to come. I should recognize the woman by her modesty and the simplicity of her love. She is to have money of her own. Well, we'll see. July 8th. Tarot for this period following Monkey Officer, 2 of Wands between 9 of Wands and 7 of Pentacles. Geomancy, shall I get ample funds for publishing, etc., including living as I like, if so, when? I did this divination very seriously, giving my reasons for making it. GM, Conjunctio, total 124. 1 Puella, 2 Carcer, 3 Puer, 4 Laetitia, 5 F minor, 6 Caput, 7 Acquis, 8 Puer, 9 Trist, 10 Via, 11 Cotta, 12 Rubius, TS, Conjunctio J Via TD Carcer, figure EXC for 4th, bad for the 2nd time, a solar and 4 lunar figs, answer yes, before end of 1917. It came to me some days back, I wickedly did not record it, that a magus must burn up the whole of his karma. As a magister templi he is all receptiveness, as a magus all activity. True, he pours out himself in a certain mold or form, see Liber 1 verse 14, according to his original nature. But this nature has been masked by karma. This is symbolized in Liber 418 or 418 by the burning of the book T to ashes. The Kabbalah of primes is all utterly unwritten. May the Holy One grant it unto me. To Therion, to Megatherion, 666, my full name. Note star formed by his name includes Sephiroth 1 through 9. The name has 8 letters between to and on. To on in Greek is existence. The Sanskrit tat sat. It is a tamura of Meiqragh, translation of Greek and Sanskrit. July 11th, heard from S.H. Frater Nemo 8.3 of his attainment of that grade. Crowley refers to Charles Stansfeld Jones, a Zelator 2.9 of the AA, who took the Oath of the Abyss on the summer solstice. This removes a bar to my full grade of 9.2. I had heard before by wire on descending from the train at Bristol, but I had a blind fit on. Crowley was notified by telegram on date, but apparently failed to understand Jones's somewhat cryptic message. July 12th, 5 p.m. A storm struck the lake. I went out to put my canoe in safety. Returning, I found a father, mother, and child who had taken refuge under my roof. I was wet, though, and went into the middle chamber of the cottage to change my clothes. I had just got the clean shirt on and was stooping for the trousers when a globe of fire burst a few inches from my right foot. A spark sprang to the middle joint of the middle finger of my left hand. From this I conclude, 1. The masters still need me, the initiation is real. Cf. the fall with my horse on the Burma-China frontier in 1905. 2. I have repeatedly thought that death must be the issue of this initiation. This is then wrong. It seems to me as if this initiation were taking place elsewhere, i.e. not in my consciousness at all. It is obviously too big for my human consciousness, yet its results must work down through that. I will write down my woe, that maybe it be thereby alleviated. There is nothing in me that corresponds at all to the grade. There is utter impotence on all planes. This has persisted through the whole period, save for short spells, where I have been more or less normal. But always I slip back into the state for which I find idiocy, an adequate and even euphemistic term. I do not in the least fail to understand the grade. I am simply unable to act. It is no good making up my mind to do anything material, for I have no means. But this would vanish if I could make up my mind. I am, as it were, inhibited from everything. I am tempted, for example, to crucify a toad, or copulate with a duck, sheep, or goat, or set a house on fire, or murder someone with the idea, a perfectly good magical idea, of course, that some supreme violation of all the laws of my being would break my karma, or dissolve the spell that seems to bind me. And I cannot do it because chiefly I have no faith that it would actually do so. T. Therion. Note dream of February 15th, 1915 as to killing the lion very dead indeed. See page 23. Perhaps I worry too much about when shall I be free. Perhaps after having preached to others so much of serpents and hummingbirds, I myself may be a castaway. At all events, every species of divination on this matter gives negative results. January 13th, 12:15 a.m. I omitted a rather important corollary of my message of yesterday afternoon. It was this, that I ought not to degrade myself by working at anything whatever but the one thing, to preach my law, either directly or by art. In short, no more Vanity Fair, no more Stuart X, no more Miss Adams. As Dante said to me at the National Arts Club, "Canst not thou go into the street and starve?" After arriving in the United States, Crowley wrote for Vanity Fair, contributed an introduction to a privately produced work on geopolitics by a Washington, D.C. writer who used the pseudonym Stuart X, and collaborated with the astrologer Evangeline Adams on astrological books. Adams owned the cottage Crowley was staying in during this period. July 15th. I waited patiently upon IHVH, or Yadhe-Vavhe. I waited patiently upon Yadhe-Vavhe, and he inclined unto me and heard my cry. Ergo I prayed while I waited. He brought me up also out of the horrible pit and out of the miry clay, America, and set my feet upon a rock and established my goings. Thus both rest and motion are assured, and hath put a new song in my mouth, even praise unto our God. Then I hope I'll write one. These versicles came to me while I lit my bonfire, which, despite much recent rain, went splendidly of itself from the start. July 16. Wrote Good Hunting. Very vivid dream at night of Frater F.P., who could speak and hear perfectly. Cowie. July 17. Performed the ceremony of the Assumption of the Curse of the Grade of Magus. Performed the ceremony of the Assumption of the Curse of the Grade of Mage. CTB. This refers to Liber 70, given in full on page 71. Record attached. The record is the summary and schedule of his performance of the ritual as given here. 0. The mystery of conception about 2 a.m. 1. The mystery of birth about 6 a.m. 2. The mystery of baptism about noon. 3. The mystery of worship all day. 4. The mystery of trial 9 p.m. 5. The mystery of crucifixion 9:30 p.m. 6. The mystery of resurrection and ascension 9:45. July 18. Many strange dreams, but in particular, I with some friends was visiting a strange black king who was with a wife and either a child or a second wife. I was on his right hand. Many curious dishes were brought in and eaten, and at last a man baked in a special casserole cut to human shape. He carved me a slice of the hand which kept the shape of the profile as it lay on the plate. I ate it. It was delicious, simple as mutton, yet as rich as foie gras. I was wondering how I could get a second helping when I woke up. July 18, 19:15 p.m. It has just struck me to set up a figure of the heavens for the hour when I accepted this grade of 9-2. The astrological chart does not appear in the typescript, and it is uncertain exactly what he means. This is very like the other figures, see Equinox 110, with Herschel replacing Neptune. July 19 and 20, reading and revising 9th degree books of OTO, also the Paris working. July 20th, 11 p.m., Dijovis, Operation 36, Operation 38, see Rex de Art Regia, Volume 3. July 2nd, in Boston, Massachusetts, USA, Mercury on the spot, I had $30 stolen. July 23rd, Operation 39. Following this, a solar dhyana began, but was transient, and Pranava failed to hold it. I was very tired. July 24th, returned to Adam's cottage. July 25th, very tired swimming, etc. At night tried Miriam de Rock's pills. 1 cg morphia, 1 cg opium, 1 cg spartine, nothing. July 26th, worked nearly all day on Adam's cryptogram. Later carved in wood with scanty instruments, but with much labor and joy, a phallic fetish capable of serving as a dildo, and that either single or double. Now, 10:40 p.m., I am about to write a Thelema tract. P.S. Did so, the law of liberty. July 28th, the planet Mercury is the moon, or feminine image of the sun. Took 400 drops of Anhelonium Lewinii, chocolate base. 6:15, eyes dilated, rather dazed and excited, also yawning. 7:35, have been writing letters, etc. Effects apparently all passed off. 7:45, find myself highly amused, but complaining that AL is a fraud, dear old symptom. 7:55, entry with regard to 7th degree OTO, censored. 8:15, there is some slight mental disturbance of the analytical sort. One reasons out loud over trivial things. 8:25, it takes pleasure in every trifle, and asked to think of those things which usually distress it, dismisses them like Jesus with a jest. 8:55, distinct tendency to excitement of ahamkara, silly personal pride in one's knowledge of Greek, one's height, etc. All exaggerated very much indeed. E.g., I wished I had my Hebrew and Greek Bible so as to write my article against Shaw. Liber 888, Jesus, the Gospel according to Bernard Shaw. See the Equinox 3:2. And at once painted a fancy picture of myself as the ripe scholar and theologian, half patriarch, half Don. 1150, quite normal. Re AA, for one who was not of us, was a plot for Balzac, the rising from grade to grade amid fearful dangers, etc., and winning out, becoming equal to Buddha and Jesus and the rest, and that being the horror of great falsehood. July 29th, 1:07 a.m. I perceive the use of the knife, not to divide, but to fashion things into beauty from shapelessness. Cut not to destroy, but to create. This is of the most supreme importance. See my notes to the third ether. This is another attempt to fix the name Foursquare, Mystic, Wonderful. Crowley is acting as his own editor. 9:30 a.m. Work at 8 after probably 5.5 hours of sleep. Long dreams of war and adventure very vivid. Dose evidently inadequate to my exalted grade. My eyes are tired, but then I've been cooking over a wood fire in the open. I work exceptionally active and energetic. p.m. Quite normal all day. Heard that the monkey officer had miscarried on July 12th. Asked Tarot if I should go on with the affair. Got 5 of Wands with 2 of Wands, and Taurus next it, and Scorpio and Libra afar. July 30. Wrote Philo de Se, and went on carving and painting fetishes. August 1st. Wrote pamphlet on material advantages of OTO. August 2nd. Wrote long letter to S.H. Frater OIV VIO, mostly on sex. August 3rd. Quiller editing Golden Rose. Operation 40. Quiller was one of Crowley's many literary pseudonyms. August 4th. Canoeing and swimming all day, wrote Black and Silver. A thrush came into the cottage. August 5th. I caught the thrush, but it escaped later, though I tried to tame it. Later still I found a snake in the woods, but failed to kill it. Writing all day, an epistle to Parzival, etc. Instructions for extending the law. Liber 300. August 6th, 12:55 a.m. Woke after dreaming twice that M.O.H. was dead. Mother of Heaven, i.e. Layla Waddell. A close, horrible night, lightning and low booming thunder. M.O.H. is the only thing I have of value. I am not happy. She hasn't written all the week, and I know she hasn't been well. I suppose it's only a mixture of the thunder, the extreme mental fatigue and eye strain, and possibly my new corned beef croquettes. I cannot have been asleep long, an hour at most, though it had been all night. Could hardly believe combined evidence of Phlox and Merc. August 6th, 6:45 p.m. All day editing Golden Rose. Took 400 drops new AL, or Anilonium Luini, preparation as before, but will drink wine to aid it. August 7th. Nothing at all came of this except bien etre, especially this day following. All AM dictated Shaw article. I note 15th Ether gives rules for work of a magus. August 8th, 9th, and 10th. At Shaw article all the time. August 11th, it is rather amusing that operation of July 17th that I now have a stenographer exactly like a frog to assist me in the ceremonial slaying of Jesus in the Shaw article. August 14th, back from Boston in operations 41 through 43. There is a most mysterious emptiness in the cottage. I have pointedly done all the familiar things, but it's still all in vain. Nothing is changed, yet all is changed. It is as if a great banishing had been performed, but not by me. Is this the preparation for a new current? The rota gives AP between Libra and KTP, distant 2 of Wands and Page of Swords. The Lima books give Thou was like a flake of snow falling in the pine-clad woods, which refers to Virgo as to Page of Swords. Am I to meet the girl? August 15th. Last night wrote to OTO, Ya Sin. Letter to Anna Wright and her companions. Liber 106, on death. What on earth is Ya Sin? Hebrew for last rites. Now at Shaw article again. August 16th. Made preliminary experiment with ether. August 17, still at Shaw. August 19, getting Shaw article well started. Done some 25,000 words so far. Last night in this AM, wrote epistle to Professor LBK. Professor Keesby. Tried ether again, Operation 34. Operation 44. August 21st. An amazing discovery. The operations to have a child by Hilarion, July 8, 1915, on 7 in all, and one upon Helen Wesley, ended September 12th and September 16 with 3 operations at beginning and end of catamenia. These operations are described as particularly good. On September 23rd, the word of the equinox was nebulae, i.e. the babe of an universe, as I now see. This equinox, the word, This equinox, the word is Solomon. This equinox, the word is Solomon, the child of David's adultery. Now, OIV-VIO was born June 21st, exactly 9 months after the Liber equinox. On conclusion of equinox ceremony, Hilarion had seduced me, and I had concentrated on the word just obtained. It is really very remarkable that I did no operation for a child after this September 12 through 16. We were at Vancouver, where Freighter OIV-VIO lived, on October 19, I 2 or 3 days earlier. It is to be noted, too, that Hilarion was the perfect scarlet woman as described in 220, chapter 3, verse 44. Then OIV-VIO may be the child coming from no expected house. Since I always thought of a material baby and never tried for a spiritual son. Chapter 3, verse 47. And yet the child of my bowels. Since OIV-VIO has Sagittary on the ascendant, and Sagittary is on the cusp of my 6th house, Virgo, the bowels, and also because I did the 9th degree operations for him upon the body of Hilarion. He may be mightier than all the kings of the earth, because cast out into Malkuth. I woke up with these ideas in my head about 3:40 this a.m. Note, too, the dreams of September 20th through 21st, Hilarion as a Titan woman on whom I performed 9th degree fully. In this dream I was more than half awake. Note, too, the triple dream of the 3 consecutive sleeps in 2 days immediately following that equinox ceremony. These were all of royalty. All day writing and thinking out the chronology of the initiation of Magus. The crises at the dawn of a Chakma day are amazing. See his record. The Nativity of OIV-VIO, Vancouver, BC, June 21st, 1916, 10 p.m. August 20th, 8:05 p.m. Tarot. What shall I do tonight? Pisces with AC and 10 of Wands. Pisces with Ace of Cups and 10 of Wands, distant Page of Wands and Jupiter. Nothing came of it, I merely revised syllabus of sacred books. This passage describes what Crowley would later term the star sponge vision. It is cited frequently in his commentaries to Liber AL and elsewhere. August 23rd. Note that this long solitude has developed my physical clairvoyance to its old pitch. I can tell the suit of the card, and usually whether it is high or low. Right, nearly every time. I want, too, to place on record my certainty that all my failures came from abandoning my magic formula. Of the moment, as I do now, and again in deference to rational considerations. 7:35 p.m. I have been sucking up to the vapor of ether for a few moments, and all common things are touched with beauty. So, too, with opium and cocaine. Calm, peace, happiness without special object result from a few minutes of those drugs. What clearer proof that all depends on state of mind, that it is foolish to alter externals. $1 million spent on objets d'art would not have made this room as beautiful as it is just now, and there is not one beautiful thing in it, except myself. Man is only a little lower than the angels. One step and all glory is ours. 8:02. More ether, a delightful case of the A state caught for once. I started to think I would write an article urging men to yoga by above arguments. Next, I would write a beautiful article. Next, the tragedy of it is that I shall merely have written one more beautiful thing. I then cried, "O God," recognizing the state of deep calling unto deep. There were some physical futilities, tapping, starting to play patience, then science won. And I jumped it up to write this down. The A state is very active, e.g., it cites all sorts of ideas. 9:05, and more. There is a state of visualized mind which I've been calling the ultimate Samadhi. In this state, nothingness with twinkles. This passage describes what Crowley would later term the star sponge vision. It is cited frequently in his commentaries to Liber AL and elsewhere. It appears that will and memory are exceptionally good under ether, but I am taking the drug in an unusual way. The active nostril to the can and it may be the usual business of stimulation and exhaustion, and that I experience my present advantages owing to my being new to ether. Or, of course, it may be specially suited to me physiologically, though I remember this hypothesis when I began most other drugs. 943. Soon I got nothingness with twinkles, but what twinkles? And now I find all that merely physical. It's the old resolution of splendor into bliss. A fragment among Crowley's papers, Warburg Institute, entitled Platitudes, relates to the star sponge vision, and most likely ether. Star sponge, where it is recognized as being the nervous system. Start with anything, begin to make magical discoveries about it. Go through a whole series of experiences, each of which is an explosively joyous Samadhi. You soar from height to height until you come out at the final disclosure, which you hasten to put into words. Having done so, you recognize that these words are a platitude. At first, you have the horrible sensation of being completely fooled, but by concentrating on this idea, you perceive with great joy the true nature of the platitude, which is the sum of human wisdom on that particular subject. And what you have done in the course of the whole series of meditations which have ended in this way is to have retraced the whole superb course of human thought on this line. These became golden twigs, some of which were published in the International. The collected stories were published posthumously. Except for St. Bernard Shaw, the titles written from August 30th through September 14th are in this series. Ether states are, as science says, ephemeral. So are all drug states. It's an instability. Time flies fast, though. I note that toleration of the sharpness of the smell of the ether is acquired gradually. Hence, one should allow 3 hours or so to get honestly drunk, taking an easy curve. August 24th. At Shaw again. Read The Way of All Flesh, a novel by the younger Samuel Butler. August 25th, 5:12 p.m. More ether. I come to the solution of an old problem through mathematics. I begin by trying to help the whores off Broadway. You'll be able to get ether quite easily, and it's just as good as cocaine, only it takes a few minutes longer to work. And what's a few minutes in a matter like that? Now I got the idea of the interrelation of small cycles and the apparent independence of larger ones. Thus you spend your life like Darwin or like Gilles de Rais. A mere fraction of a revolution of Neptune includes it. Then I saw that all things in time are interdependent, and that what is always is, because 1 and 10 are, after all, relatives. 6 p.m., Operation 45. 9:20 p.m. If I am ever caught in an error, I shall excuse myself by saying that I did not mean what I said, but that I have often thought there is not enough talking done in the world, and I wished to make discussion. The above appears to me one of the funniest things ever said. August 27th. More Shaw yesterday, fagged by Wheat's work, read Fraser's Dying God, and worked on Shaw, 4 MD pills at night. Nothing much but considerations for Liber LXXIII. August 30th. Have done a lot more Shaw and started a series of short works based on folklore. These became golden twigs, some of which were published in the International. The collected stories were published posthumously. Except for St. Bernard Shaw, the titles written from August 30th to September 14 are in this series. August 31st, All Day at Shaw and Mass of St. Sacaire. September 1, finished St. Sacaire and St. Bernard Shaw 2, thank Hermes. September 2nd, wrote The Burning of Melkarth. September 3rd, at the Corian Cave Yarn. 10:30 p.m., Operation 46. September 4th, finished Corsian Cave. September 6th, beginning The Priestess of Cybele. In these months of loneliness, those women only attract whom I have half finished. Annie Ringler, Miriam de Rox, Doris Gomez. To keep a woman forever, get thoroughly excited, then quit. 11:30. An experiment with ether has been in progress. I have just seen! Exclamation times 9. The difference between the holy guardian angel of Abramelin and such material visions and all interior illumination whatever. The former gives proof to the man as man of a celestial hierarchy. It relieves him of his main fear, materialism itself. Hence, mysticism is no good to convince people in comparison with magic. You must argue with the man you're arguing with. Mysticism is like making him drunk. 1150. I now see why Buddha said, "Don't fight error, preach the good law." Too much error to fight, dissipating energies. Even Christianity is hardly worth fighting. So many atheists are shocked if one does. Therefore, do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law, and nothing else. 5. I find ether has a curious effect apparently on the solar plexus, hard to describe. It seems almost as if it were a nervous spasm of sorts in a very mild way. September 7th, finished the Stone of Cybele. Letter from Miriam in New York. She wrote about August 27th. Operation 47. September 8th, diarrhea and headache. Half asleep nearly all day, PM began. The God of Ibreeze. September 9th, finished the God of Ibreeze, and very nearly finished Aleister Crowley. September 10th through 11th, wrote The Old Man of the Peepal Tree. September 12th, woke after the hideous nightmare I call the mislaid manuscript. It may have been too much Chianti, or too many Page and Shaw candies. I have applied the old-fashioned but well-tried and never-failing method, cold pork chops and hot chocolate. There were stories and plays, more wonderful than anything ever, and the manuscript were, I didn't quite know where, and I couldn't quite remember the names and contents of the manuscript, but they had that rich flavor that manuscript only have in dream. 8:30, slept again several times. The same dream went on, this time with the printed Thelema books, and then another small book about that size, but full of dozens of weird novelettes and essays and dialogues. September 13th, writing The Hearth. Note on Pratyahara. What people miss is the yogin can get as much fun out of swinging his leg as a Western millionaire out of his first season in New York. This ought to be worked up for propaganda purposes. Need I say above means ether? 8:35, Operation 48. September 14, I continue The Hearth. Why, I really envy God. He knows all the follies of humanity, so he must laugh a million times as much as I, who only contemplate my visit to a town where I cannot get a glass of beer, and where the chemist hesitates before adding a teaspoonful of alcohol to a toothwash, but sells me a pound can of ether without a wink. 9:30, finished The Hearth. September 15th, Professor L.M. Keesby of the University of Texas, here on a visit to me. At night I was being nightmared, a railway line with vast trains running all over me in all directions, lots of narrow escapes. Woke with a burst in the brain, very loud. This might make a news story for Golden Twigs, the Iron Age, which should connect the oppression of humanity with the use of coal and iron. September 16, 17, and 18. Talking to Keesby. It appears as if this were the word awaited. I am to go to Texas on November 4th and start there, OTO there. P.S. Events were too strong for Keesby, who got obsessed. Soon after visiting Crowley, Keesby was dismissed from the institutional history chair at the University of Texas at Austin. A few years later, he converted to Roman Catholicism and died soon thereafter. September 19th, merely reading Fraser's Taboo, etc. September 20th, Ether. It is impossible to make a tragedy of man's leaving his wife, because women don't count. They only exist insofar as they seduce or otherwise destroy men. A deserted woman may be comic or pathetic, never tragic. And then I went to sleep. I'm in deep reaction after the heavy work of the last 6 weeks. September 22nd, 9:15 p.m. The ceremony of the equinox has been performed. The word Sagittae coming by my clock at 9:05. It may be a little fast or slow. However, call it 9:23, Gemini rising, Operation 49. I perceive that the word lies latent in the semen of a Magus, and being placed in the mouth of the victim becomes a word. Hence, ritual rubric. The operation was extremely good in the magical sense. I trust Sagittae refers to the Paris working, arrows shot in the war against the slave gods. The Thelema divination, O thou delicious god, smile sinister, a phallic reference. P.S. Note how hard Balzac tried to make the Baronne Hulot d'Hervey tragic. At the last, he had to give it up, and put the cap on with the gorgeously comic episode of finding her husband, over 80, in bed with an ugly and stupid servant girl, whom he marries after the shock has killed the wife. And then I went to sleep. I'm in deep reaction after the heavy work of the last 6 weeks. Liber LXXIII, Chapter 3, verse 47. A geomantic divination gave Amicio for GM, 100 for total. 1 F minor, 2 ACQ, 3 Cotta, 4 Albus, 5 Amicio, 6 Populus, 7 F minor, 8 Pop, 9 Amiss, 10 Alb, 11 ACQ, 12 Cotta. September 23rd. I find mitos to be the Orphic word for semen. Hence, Baphomet means evidently the baptism of the Holy Ghost. Phanes equals the Shining One, Aguedes in Orphic. He is the bisexual phallic god. Revised the Gospel according to St. Bernard Shaw. Have been continuing Fraser and started Jung's Psychology of the Unconscious. September 24th. Last night, wakefulness followed by disturbed dreams. Jung had stimulated me. I remembered my 3 dream places. I have not thought of them for years. 1, the town rather like Cambridge, but with some continental touches. There is a street like the way down Garrett Hostel Lane, but with old wooden houses, in one of which lives a sluttish but very fascinating servant girl. In this town is also a hill covered with cottages, full of slavies and low whores, who all accept me in a luscious, vicious way. 2, the hacienda a few miles beyond a Mexican town where I have sex adventures with the owneress. 3, the caverns in Cairo. A secret door leads to an underground bazaar full of devotees of every fiendish vice. I was also sexually excited by a wire to say that Gerda was coming. Gerda von Kothek. I think I can see a way to get Samadhi easily by certain applications of Jung's theories. September 25th, 10:30 p.m. Operation 50. September 27th, 12:30 a.m. Operation 51. This during mild ether experiment. I note that intellect is a detached phenomenon, a mere excrescence in the soul. It is the personality and the tendencies which are made manifest by drugs. September 29th, 1:20 a.m. Operation 52, 8:25 p.m. Operation 53. September 30th. As often remarked previously, one cannot work at all with women in the house. In future, I will never have anything but a better aspectu horribilis. So help me God. So help me God. 11:45 p.m. Operation 54. October 3rd, 12:35 a.m. Operation 55. I note the period March 29th to August 22nd is that in Egyptian rituals where one has a lot of small gods in the pylons. So here I had officers monkey, rat, owl, frog, and ram. These will presumably dovetail to prepare the next period. October 4th, 4:35 p.m. Operation 56. October 6th, devised constitutional government for OTO. Not Liber 194. Not necessarily a paper, check outtakes. October 7th, 12:45 a.m., Operation 58. October 9th, 12:30 a.m., Operation 59. A restless night full of ideas, especially The Dwarf, a story or play of Rabelais type on Jung's theories. About a week ago, Gerda took elixir and had a non-elixir vision. Monks in brown robes and hoods go up a green hill with a misty top in an endless line. They wear rings with a red cross within a gold triangle. This was on Thursday. On Friday I went myself to see the top of the hill. There was a great cross with 3 rings and an open sarcophagus in front. Saturday Gerda succeeded in reaching the top and saw, without having been told of my vision, a cross with a sun on it and a heap of stones in front. Sunday she went again and found the cross black and moldering, in front a bowl in the earth with fire in it, burning the stones to ash. The monks have throughout had their faces covered with their hands. The symbols are remarkable as being formulae of Adept Minor, Magister Templi, and Magus. On Monday she started to pull my poor leg by copying Hebrew from Equinox and offering it as evidential. My attitude seems to have discouraged her in this career of infamy. I note that a fortnight has elapsed since the girls came, seems like 3 days. Who lives alone lives long. Lodges, profess houses, etc. should always be oriented to Boleskine. Made notes about government of OTO. October 12th, 7:45 a.m. Operation 60. Holiness to the Lord. October 14th, 1:20 a.m. Operation 61. October 14th, 1:20 a.m. Operation 61. October 15th, sudden fever yesterday, better today. October 16th, to Potter's Place, through getting in wrong train. October 17th, to New York. November 1st to December 9th, in New York, a.m. of December 9th. Arrived in New Orleans for a great magical retirement. December 10th, Operation 81, dedicating myself anew to Thoth. December 11th, Operation 82. December 13th, Operation 83. December 15th. Twice recently the Lord has showed me signal favor by sending a sufficient sum of money when I was within $1 or so of actual starvation. It is really very kind of him, and I am very aware that this is the usual practice in such cases. But I have had about 10 years of it, and I'm through. I don't care what the practice is. My faith is in perfect working order. I enjoy the beatific vision, practically without cessation. I'm not complaining. I'm merely going on strike, for my power to work is being hampered exceedingly by the constant worries about things like stenographers and printers. The book of the law is quite clear. We are to have a good time in the ordinary sense of the word, and if the book is wrong, then the whole question lapses. Georgie, the Negro maid, came in this morning. I said I was annoyed because I had to go out to get a registered letter. She said that she didn't have to go out if she didn't want to. The madam could go out herself. Am I to be taught the simplest elements by Georgie? Yeah, verily, and amen. I therefore down tools until I have 1. A competent stenographer, 2. Money enough in hand to see me comfortably through until the equinox of spring, this to include payment of all American liabilities and clothes. 3. A guarantee by some signal sign or in some more practical manner that all will be well in future. I intend to interpret this in the most liberal way, and shall add to it this 4th demand. 4. Means of publishing immediately all manuscript except those destined for Equinox 3. This strike is to include all work for OTO as well as AA. I shall not inform the brethren of my decision. If the gods can keep silence, so can I. If I can't, I'll learn how. December 16th. I voice this complaint under ether taken with purely vicious purpose. Yet thoughts turn to old ways, malgré moi, and I get there is the swordsman waiting to spring into the saddle. P.S. This journey to New Orleans was a desperate magical effort. I started with only $40 besides my fare. I did this because all sorts of obstacles seemed to be barring my journey to Texas, and though I could hardly go to Texas without due invitation, I thought I would get near enough to defy fate, as it were. I did this quite against my obvious interests of the material order. Therion, 14:3-17. December 20th. There is a peculiar attitude of mind which perceives all things, irrespective of their nature, to be beautiful. E.g., how glorious to have a really free nostril. Now this idea is of a quite distinct order of the idea from the ... who classes ideas. P.S. I wish the AA would grant the workman's demands. December 22nd. Monkey officer wires passionate appeal to me to come to New York for Christmas. December 23rd. Ether. The bride had picked up a book at random from the shelves of the hotel. 2 parts of hydrogen combined with 1 of oxygen, she read, to form water. The acceleration due to gravitation is 32 feet per second. The beast, she cried. He does not understand love. The above is a parable for 9-2, as in staircases. But which side are you on, and why? December 23rd through 24th, midnight. I rise to record that for 2 days past I have had the premonition of great things impending. December 26th. Long, curious dream last night. I was a priest of the Jesuit type in a profess house, or college of some kind. Edward VII came into the dream and figured prominently for some time, a long time. His first appearance was jumping from a balcony 5 feet 6 inches high. I went to help him up. 9:54 p.m. Ether. Here is a Magus assuming that the whole fabric of the universe ought to coincide with his psychology, which is absurd. The perception that it is absurd is a perception belonging to a low and limited order of brain. Note, under Ether I always get this question of strata of thought. I do hope something will come of it, creative work. To explain above, I must say that I was arguing with the other. Masters about finance, expecting them to foresee all and provide. I saw the rationalist objection in the answer to it. We do assume a great mind capable of attending to everything at once and dovetailing it. A rationalist could never conceive of a man playing chess, whose moves are certainly ordered by intelligence, however much that intelligence may be conditioned by prior circumstances. Therefore, I believe nothing. But I know this, that I have been dealing with intelligences as far superior to my own as mine is to Hereward Carrington's. I say an extreme thing, and I shall continue to strike with confidence that I am not fighting the air, but pitting myself against those whose only folly seems to be that they call me wise. This is the 11th day of the strike. P.S. 14.3.17. Without animism, one might argue that as some things are causally connected differently, all things are so ultimately, and that therefore it is not irrational to expect that the condition of a mind should coincide with the whole structure of the universe. 10.25. What is man? A soap bubble blown by a spermatozoon. 10.35. Yet every act we do, however foolish or futile, goes branching on for eternity. An infinite heritage. The 10.25 remark was not purely sarcastic. It meant that man, with all his diseases, etc., was implicit in the spermatozoon. Have just passed through an ordeal. Can't explain, takes years. General idea. Damn it, what's anything worth without money? Cry of Magus. I refuse. Keen sense of ridicule of the priggishness of it all then and now, but a real sense of the choice between superficial and true things. I'm inclined to think that the back of the strike is broken. The shame is on them if I starve. However, bother details. The point in above record is that the I refuse rang out clear and true above all the jarring sounds. Tennyson. It really was a test in Therion 1. December 27th. Another long dream of being entertained at some American club. The Kaiser came into it, but very vaguely. I am now going to start work again, with absolutely no resources. I have not even proper paper or money to buy it. Total cash in hand, 70 cents. December 28th. Last night, yet a third dream involving royalty, I forget how. December 29th. Another dream, this time I was a boy and present at the death of Queen Victoria. January 13th, 1917. A letter from Dr. A.K. Kumaraswamy, the worm, in regards to the path. Replied to it. P.S. This correspondence ended in the discovery of the worm as a black brother. It has been very useful to have the type to study. I note with all stimulant drugs that if one is with others, the force is entirely dissipated, usually on the sex plane. If one is alone, one becomes creative at once. This is important as establishing the Kundalini doctrine with its upper and lower exits. It does not bear, however, on the doctrine of abstinence from sex. For, in normal excitement, the sex seems to stimulate the other creative power. January 14th, 1:30 a.m. Just finished writing lecture for second degree on government of OTO. January 15th. Began Simon F. novel. P.S. 14.317. Note that during this period, 6 Simon F. stories, nearly 50,000 words, 3 other short stories, an essay, and several minor things had been written. This enabled the other masters to have a good laugh at Therion for saying that his work was being hampered. Moonchild, Liber 81. The Simon If novel being Moonchild, Liber 81. Note that we naturally and inevitably divide women into chaste and unchaste, therefore subconsciously affirming that C is the only important thing about them. January 19. I have been getting the Tao more and more every day for a week, and I have a completely original idea for a game of cards. January 31st, Operation 84. February 1. I've been thinking that I should have paid more attention to climate. Damp but soft airs always breed the Taoist passive love type of mysticism. I must arrange to include this in my curriculum. It should help folk. P.S. Taoism sprang in the Yangtze Delta, did it not? Buddhism certainly in the Ganges Valley. Christianity was invented mostly at Alexandria, that is, the languid mystic bits were surely added in the Nile Delta. Sufism comes from the valleys of the Euphrates and Tigris. Mormonism was invented in the Mississippi Valley. The law was given at Cairo, in the Nile Delta. This ought to be worked up with a great deal of pains, comparing the differences with those religions which have sprung up on heights and in plains. Memorandum. I note Taoists also insist a good deal on respiration work, not quite ordinary pranayama. I think I will find out the best drugs to reduce the rate of breathing and get hold of that end of the stick, as Frater I.A. used to say once more. February 2nd. My 2 1/4 work crowned with success. USA breaks off relations with Germany. Crowley is referring to his work for the pro-German publication The Fatherland, which he always said was a disinformation campaign, while his critics called him a traitor to England. This diary entry confirms Crowley's position. February 9th, arrived at Titusville, Florida. March 5th, Operation 86. March 6th, threatened severe frost. I averted same to repay my cousin for his hospitality. The operation was very remarkable. I went out at noon in bitter cold and high wind, and willed. I then slept very deeply for 3 hours, and woke in still, warm weather with the sun shining. The forecasts had given several days of cold, and forecasts in America are very different to those in England. They rarely go wrong. Part 4. Anno 8, Sol in Aries, March 21st, 1917. The last few days of the last equinox have been devoted to the conclusion of various affairs, the revision and addition of Ecclesiae Gnosticae Catholicae Canon Missae, and so on, with the resumption of my Simon If novel. There were several serious obstacles to the due performance of the ceremony of the equinox, but I overcame them, and at about 10 p.m. on this day of Jupiter obtained the word for the next 6 months. Yinda. The message in Thelema is this: 65, 5:24. Also thou art beyond the stabilities of being and of consciousness and of bliss. For I am thou, and the pillar is established in the void. The tarot gives as a symbol Page of Swords between 6 of Wands and 7 of Cups, K and E and D and N, victory and illusionary success, distrust the Emperor to whom she looks, and PC or Prince of Cups looking away from her. This girl also suggests the brown girl in the dream of last summer, but also all promises well for my affairs. March 23rd, 1917. I wonder if it be true, as often asserted, that genius is the final flower of a graft. If so, the semen of a genius is really worthless. and he is therefore justified in throwing it about as he does. The master of the house is one who does not care to hear disputes. It is absolutely impossible to convey the profundity of this thought. I began thus. Instead of having the exciting time I am now having, I might have been asleep, if it had not occurred to me too, etc. This was answered by a deterministic fellow, he by a free will fiend, and so on. Then I came and said, damn it all, what's this noise in my house? It's the same as the beyond the abyss doctrine, but in terms of psychological experience. March 29th, Dai K. I've been finishing my long novel, rounding up things generally. A new and powerful impulse arrived last night, a letter from Fiat Pax, Cowie. The stupids have misunderstood my whole attitude and raised trouble. Now I go direct to Washington to straighten this out. If I fail this time to get them to listen to sense, at least I can go to Canada and force them to arrest me. My hand is therefore at last upon the lever. Left Titusville 8:03 a.m. this morning. April 21st. I seem to have nothing to record but dreams. Magical work is utterly impossible in New York City, but this dream is quite unique in my life. I went to Egypt to some excavations. In a chamber of a ruined temple sat a man named R.C.D. Balfour Campbell, who knew Battiscombe gun. Then suddenly I had some power given me by a god named Tefgu or some similar name. I'm sure of the Tef, and that it was not Tefnut. We were moved on in some procession by another god, and Campbell preceded me in a space between wall and table. I felt myself lost if I went on. My only chance was to protest instantly. I exerted my whole will and retraced my step, to the utter amazement of the shepherding god, who said, "But you can't," as who should say 2 + 2 must make 4. The reset I forget. But 2 days later I am still wondering about this dream almost all the time. The dream was on the night of Dies Jupiter, 19th of April. April 22nd. The body is cautious, fire, etc., because its heredity has so taught it. Possibly man the animal becomes more cowardly every generation. Think of the primitive man hunting the aurochs and the modern American. But soul has no fear, nor can have. Therefore, a man's courage depends on the quantity of soul available. So the most spiritual men are the most courageous. Language confirms, spirited. 12:45. I have been doubting of late. Events have been terrible, hopeless. Now I came in meditation to a thought concerning Mercury as an healer, and I laughed, crying, but I am Mercury, Mercurius sum. With this came a flash that something more was meant. The ecstasy gave place to a rapid calculation, and lo, JERMH, EIJMI, 418, 105. It was an error to proceed. I wanted the highest, the knowledge and conversation of my holy guardian angel. I said, let me not, etc., let from the illusions. Then said mine holy guardian angel unto me, you've had the vision of the universal beauty, and what good has it done you? I am still frustrated by this supreme skepticism from that supreme quarter. I must simply go on, down the precipice. 110. I have an idea for a story of an old English lady who notices eye holes in a skull as offering no resistance to a narrow, sharp instrument, and then kills a Prussian with her crochet hook in the same way. 122. The answer to the 105 question is that I am the universal beauty, and I know it. Alas, I am this, that, everything. The I am I formula is not merely wicked, it's the restriction of the predicate that makes it so idiotic. The word of sin is restriction. Anytime you think that you are not anything, that's restriction. This is the same as the duality argument put another way. Oh, how clear is my mind. Om Tat Svaha. May 6th. Had news of my mother's death. 2 nights before news, had dreamed that she was dead, with a feeling of extreme distress. The same happened 2 nights before I had news of my father's death. I had often dreamed that my mother had died, but never with that helpless, lonely feeling. May 27. My health has been constantly bad, a mixture of swamp fever and rheumatism, fugitive neuralgic symptoms, etc. At least I most sincerely hope so, i.e. from AC's point of view. But I myself, Swaya, have been considering all the time how to act as Crowley's body and mind. Can I use it anymore? Wouldn't my ideas get ahead much faster if he were dead? Shouldn't I be wise to manifest in another or in a multitude? This practice has been nightly for some few days, I dare say 10. It has helped greatly my poor client Crowley, who now sees the point of the Buddhist corpse meditation and their congeners. Written after doing Operation 3, Anno 13. May 31st. I have completed Opus 4, 5, and 6 with the object of the promulgation of the law. It appears that I should concentrate wholly on this, leaving it to those invoked forces to arrange the details. I know the other way, the way of doing one petty operation after another, is more interesting and more spectacular. But I think the only valid reason for using it is that one can follow one's work better, and the point of this is strongest when one does not know much about the method. In other words, the real adept should go straight to the point. However, am I such an adept so far? I still do operations now and then which produce the exact contrary of the desired result. But in doing an operation which is in actual harmony with one's whole karma will, such accidents should be impossible. June 14th. I note after Butler that Tanha is a longing for continued separation, and so a form of hate. So desire for fame is desire for a fixity in separation, yet all fixity is death. So personal life is hate, and perfection, which is death, is hate too. Another proof of the duality of all intellectual concepts. Forgetting is death, but so is remembering, for the one implies the other. So with all opposites. But beyond the opposites is not, as we hastily syllogize, a transcendent unity, but a something quite beyond definition or conception. The universe is an organic whole. To be conscious of every detail of it, any more than a cat is conscious of every hair on her body. The realization must be impressionistic, and the mental image of it intensely biased. Therefore, we must enlarge the mind as well as quell it. I am getting quite to the point of habitual recognition of myself as Swava, or Swaya, and it does much good. But I have seen lately the danger of having a mental machine which functions so independently of the self, and even of the human will. E.g., all my sympathies are most profoundly with the Allies, but my brain refuses to think as sympathizers seem to do. So, in argument, I often seem pro-German. Similarly, I have a socialistic or anarchistic brain, but an aristocrat's heart. Hence, constant muddle not in myself, but in others who observe me. The illusion is always attacking conscious Crowley in curious, subconscious ways. One catches oneself assuming that conscious Crowley has some importance to something, that this bundle of sticks is worth keeping tied, for example. It is hard to express how deep and subtle this has become. As a matter of fact, my brain constantly balks at the analysis. Change is the special subject of a magus, and all terms seem to have become entirely fluid. I must confess to moral paralysis, by the way. Hope has been practically extinguished, and I now realize how hard it is to work without that insidious drug. One doesn't want to take a chance anymore. The thought of wasting energy has become insupportable. I can only do a thing when I am sure of the result, or very nearly so. My life work seems to have gone to utter smash at the exact moment when it was to have flowered. And this also pertaineth unto the grade of a magus. And I give salutation to the prophet of Allah, for like unto his case is mine also. August 28th. The symptom which has obsessed me since April, 5 months now, is, as I thought and think, a sarcoma of the tibia, but I have reconquered general good health and high spirits. 10 very vigorous 9th degree and 11th degree operations in 12 days. I have overcome the financial trouble to some purpose. and this without destroying the conviction of my approaching change. My diagnosis may be wrong, in any case I've had the ordeal, yet I am quite cheerfully making plans for the future which will probably never arrive. By the way, the brown girl has materialized exactly as seen in my vision of last year, and the tarot card of this equinox. Anna Catherine Miller is her name, and we are living together in a room on Central Park West where we can see nothing but trees. Glory to the Ox Chaim, the tree of life, in whose boughs the wonder bird, the swan of Parahansa, makes his nest. I am aware that terrestrial swans don't nest in trees. September 3rd, last night, C2H520. Prana. Ether makes all body glow, but after art the glow stops above Muladhara. This glow is spherical or auric, not branching as it would be if nervous in origin. This is an argument for auras. It is love that opens the gateways of the heavens, will that shuts those of the hells. I got this as a flash of cosmic memory. As a rational corollary I got, love is the power to say yes, will the power to say no. Cheap epigram leading to heresy, beware. My 9-2 consciousness is now quite fixed in the depths. There is a point in evolution where all the different lines of argument run together with a rush. I was identifying the eye of a potato with the eye of Horus, when all the other eyes joined the dance. This always happens as the consciousness expands, becomes erectile or enthusiastic, in the course of any general resolution of propositions. Asked by Anubis, my dog-headed concubine, to say something else beautiful about love, I replied, "Ill temper is a disagreeable quality, but it never gave anybody the clap." Anna Catherine Miller, to whom Crowley called the dog. Kipling is a Puritan. The sins ye do 2 by 2, etc. Thelema must be the touchstone of the true artist. A sarcoma is fed in the same way as the body, so it ought to share in the general glee of ether. It does so, consciousness feels glad of this. This seems a good joke with a Christmassy flavor, so I laugh. Then I think of those who don't see the joke, like the poor little boys who have no turkey, so I get a maudlin sadness. This is all one idea and might be called the Pickwick complex. One stops taking ether not from fear, but because one reaches one's limit. This is distressing, but should not be. One has done one's own great work. It is for one's holy guardian angel to do his. Yet I can slip into Ivadar Ana any moment. What are moments? September 4th. I have had 3 royal dreams again in these 2 nights past. One, Roosevelt wanted me to go campaigning with him. Rockefeller, who was a man with Jupiter rising in Sagittarius, gave me dinner which I did not eat, by the way, and got very interested in my astrology, etc. 3, a long romantic dream of Charles II, an elopement, a burning mansion, etc., etc. I don't remember quite how any king came in. It was quite typically a royal dream. September 23rd, 10:30 p.m., Anno 13, Sol in Libra. A very elaborate operation in which, as the result of a most profound psychology, I obtained the word, "Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law." Objections that it is not a single word, etc., are quite nugatory. I object to recasting it as thelema, for instance. I cannot possibly explain the series of exclusions which I have devised for obtaining the supreme consciousness and will, but it doth suffice. The thelema divination is 7, chapter 6, 14. The thelema divination is, Liber 7, 6, 14. There are deep secrets in these songs. To enjoy song, he must be the bird. Bibliomancy using the holy books of Thelema. September 27th. I've been ill, liver chill and cold, etc. Every phenomenon is a change. All change is interesting as such. Therefore, the universe is joy. But the idealist, with his fixed God, is always disappointed. The masters of truth are the only happy men, though they constantly observe what men stupidly call sorrow. January 7th, 1918. I observe that a period has come in my life when attainment for its own sake is no longer wanted. Who go into Samadhi? This is, I think, a proof of the perfect destruction of sorrow. The practical point is that I now do all those things which voluptuaries do, with equal or greater enthusiasm and power, but always for an ulterior end. In this manner I am reproached by that whore of niggers and dogs, Mr. Zane, with whom I am now living in much worse than adultery, for she exhorts me to the way of the Tao. Or Zaim, the typist, was unsure. This was Roddy Minor, whom Crowley called the Camel. She became the Scarlet Woman, Soror Achitha, Ahita or Achita, and was also called Eve. But is not this, for me, perhaps that way, that I should always follow art and the salvation of the world? Am I not Saint Edward the Warden and Alexander, helper of men? I seem also to remember that in my Chinese name, Kwa is a fortress. However, January 31st, 1918. Since last entry, there has been the initiation of a new and very strong magical current. Eve has been getting visions and messages, evidently authentic, since her informant solved the problem of the spelling of Baphomet, and other things which had baffled me for a long time. See Liber 729, the Amalantra working. Anno 14, Sol in Aries, March 21st, 1918. The word of the equinox obtained through VHVIVI, Soror Achitha, is a comrock, the meaning to be obtained later. It refers to a great stream of clear water, Chesed. July 19th. Began great magical retirement in canoe on Hudson. See Liber 97. This paper, Soror Achitha's vision, is believed lost. See, however, the surviving fragment of the Hermit of Esopus Island.